Hey, whoa, hey, we're back here on WrestleZone.com. This is Dominic DeAngelo of many outlets, but I am here on behalf of WrestleZone.com, back with none other than my degenerate brother, Mr. Marcus Paul DeAngelo. It says Robert Dude Felice.
Yeah, I
Let's
just I
change
just
that up.
noticed that,
I
Dominic. You
just
gotta
noticed that too. I didn't change the
come
brand
on,
here. We'll
come
fix
on,
that up.
man.
How you doing, man? Speaking of Robert, I mean, you got a hold of me. You were a little envious,
Tell
I
you what,
think.
I was hurt. I was hurt.
You were
No,
hurt?
no, dude, I love Robert. I think that you guys did a nice job together. Big fan of his work. So yeah, let's get him on more often in
Yeah.
place of me.
No, he's an honorary D'Angelo brother, perhaps.
He is. No, I like him. I like his work.
Oh, Mark, I mean, geez, I looked when I sent you the link for this. The last time I sent you a link for this was like July 23rd. So it's been over a month. A month since
Yeah,
you've been on here.
it's been a
Geez,
minute, Dominic. And Derek Tran says nobody cares. Says get the
nobody
fuck off.
gives a
Get
flying
the fuck
fuck.
off my screen. He says, "Why
Nobody
you?"
cares.
You know
What
the
a
just the idea that you would take the time to type out a response so implies that you care.
yes.
Stephen Chambers coming with a little heat. Who's the jabroni by Tom? Nesha, what's up, guys? Good to see everybody. Hassan, hi everybody. Derek,
John Howard's in the
thanks for
house.
tuning in. Thanks for tuning in, John Howard. Let's go, Dom. We got a lot to discuss.
We got plenty to discuss.
Wait a
Marcus.
minute. You didn't say that I'm of adfreeshows.com.
You are of adfreeshows.com.
Come on, Dom. You got to put over
It's
my
on your
company here.
fucking name underneath you.
Well, my name wasn't there.
Take a look.
My
I
name wasn't
changed it,
there.
dipshit.
John's wondering where we've been. Man, it's been a whirlwind, huh, Dom?
It has been a whirlwind. Just playing a lot of catch up, spin a lot of plates, but I think we're gonna get back on track. Now the exception is next week we will. Marcus and I will be in Chicago.
We're right back on track, except for next
Except
week.
for next week, we'll be in Chicago. But for All Out, for Top Guy Weekend, for all the festivities going on there in the Windy City, but more like Schaumburg. Marcus, when's the last time you've actually been in Chicago proper?
Last year, Dom, if you remember, I met you in the city before we went out to Schaumburg.
Oh shit, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. We did. That's very true, man. I tell you what, Schaumburg is a hell of a trip outside of Chicago.
It is. It is. It's a little ways north, but man, what a nice city. It's I really enjoy being in Chicago. Every time I go there, I keep finding myself there, kind of year after year. But I love it, man. Beautiful city. We're really excited to get out there for Top Guy Weekend.
Yes.
Where we celebrate the Top Guy members at adfreeshows.com.
Yeah. Hey, we can talk about that a little bit later, but let's get to something. Oh, look at this! WrestleZone is in the house.
Oh, WrestleZone, welcome, welcome,
welcome, WrestleZone.
Dom, John is wondering if we ever get out to Cincinnati. Probably. It's probably someday.
You know what?
Right?
Cincy, I'd like to try out. I've been by Cincy or through Cincy. With the Bengals, Joe Burrow's like one of my favorite players right now. So.
I think he means professionally, Dom. You fucking slapdick. Yeah, there's probably a strong chance that with our jobs we'll have to go to Cincinnati. We'll be all over the damn map.
One time or another, it's gonna happen. Marcus, so yes, you've been gone for over a month. Lots on AEW has happened. Plenty. I almost don't know where to start, but I guess where we should start is what happened this past week on Dynamite. A squash match, basically, between Jon Moxley and your former AEW World Champion, CM Punk, with the shortest reign of an AEW World Champion ever. And he did not successfully defend the title at all. What do you make of all this, Marcus?
I thought it sucked. That's to get just simply put, you've got they were kind of showing the numbers and saying, hey, this is check it out. We did some big numbers here this past week. It's like, and then you fucked everybody over with this match that should have been the main event, and B should have been like a 30-minute match at the least. Highly competitive. Like, look, if Jon Moxley's going to go over, Jon Moxley's going to go over. I think it's cool. I think it's something that nobody would have expected. But to do it the way that they did it, nope, sucked.
You don't make it in comparison to when Goldberg unexpectedly defeated Brock Lesnar. Remember how that happened?
No. I do not. No. It's not the same. with this, it was, it was something that everybody felt. Nobody needed you to do it on Dynamite in the first place, right? It's a pay-per-view match. So everybody's scratching their heads in the first place, and they're like, well, better tune in. They're giving us a pay-per-view quality match for free. Then they fuck us over with this match. It winds up being a squash match. And it's everybody always makes this comparison, and you know how much I love WCW. Loved it. But doing that was probably the most WCW thing that AEW has done so far in their run.
Yeah. Steven Chambers says if Punk is going to wrestle it all out, if this is another squash match, fans are going to be very upset. I could not imagine that they would do that again. But Marcus, honestly, I'm kind of with you. Like, I think it was like, ooh, like, wow, he did get squashed. But what you expected, I think what a lot of viewers expected going into that week, the week before, with Punk cutting that hot promo, Mox getting in his face, all that stuff, and then you hot shot unexpectedly that match the following week, you're really wanting those fans to be like, all right, this is must-see television. And, in some sort of sense it was, but you aren't – I don't think it really produced a lot of goodwill with a fan base coming in to watch something.
No, I agree.
You were expecting Punk and Mox to lay it all out on the line and go nuts and everything like that. And that did not happen.
And, like Excalibur's hype, and like these men haven't been in a ring together for X amount of years, and it's everybody's really pumped up, and then they kind of give us that dog shit finish, and man, it was just like kind of let all the air out of the room. So you draw in all these fans, hopefully new fans, were drawn into like, hey, we got to watch this. It's maybe I'm not a huge AEW fan, but I love Dean Ambrose, I love CM Punk, and they're gonna wrestle each other. Cool, awesome. And they tune in, and they're like, what the fuck? So you bring in this new audience, and then you instantly kind of turn them against you, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
But do you think there's some certain outside factors that we're, not in tune with necessarily? Maybe Punk's actually hurt. Maybe there's just some backstage friction, certain outside elements that are coming into play that maybe had an effect on why this match took place and how it took place.
I don't think he was legitimately hurt. We can start there. And that was actually Nesh's question there. Is Punk really hurt? I don't think so. I think Thunder Rosa is, however, which we can talk about. But
we'll talk about that.
But yeah, I don't think he was legitimately hurt. I don't want to speculate because I have zero inside knowledge. But if I was to speculate, I'd say maybe it was just like a backstage. Like, well, we don't want Mox to just lose. It buries Mox. So how do we get out of this? And they're like, oh, like he can be hurt, and we'll just make it a squash.
Yeah, I mean, it just – and then the follow-up. I don't know if you caught it on Rampage, but they kind of hyped a little bit that we're going to see extra footage of Punk backstage, during, like right after he got hurt and left and lost the match. And it was nothing. Like, it just basically said he didn't feel anything, and that's what happened when he first hurt his ankle. Or broke his foot and everything like that. And it was not a good follow-up. And it kind of just seemed like you're not delivering on this. You're not producing, like, you can create a story out of it, but this is not creating goodwill. It doesn't feel,
No. Dominic James Pittman, great video. So appreciate that, James.
Yes. Hey,
hey, how about that? I'm guessing that he's talking about
my shoulders.
Yeah, gotta be. Nesha raises. Oh wait, let's start with Steven here. He's above her. What are the chances of Paige wrestling triple threat with Punk and Mox at All Out, or they may wait until Arthur Ashe, Punk versus Paige? I don't think it's gonna be a triple threat. If I was just guessing,
it shouldn't be a triple threat either.
If I was really gonna guess at what's gonna happen, what I'm hoping happens is you keep the belt on Mox against Punk, but only because MJF makes his return. And does a little something, and then maybe we can start looking at Mox and Hangman Page at Arthur Ashe down the road.
Do you think any of this indication of Punk losing, like kind of looking to spawn in after he left, was carried off? The promo he cut before, where he really ran down Mox and said he's not even the second best John, the first best John he's wrestled in Chicago or beat in Chicago. Do you think all that is playing into a CM Punk heel turn?
Yeah, probably. But like it's so willy nilly, man. And that's what's frustrating is like when did Brian Danielson become a babyface? When he got hurt, all of a sudden we like him now. He's a good dude.
Well, when he joined the Blackpool Combat Club, I would say, like when
Okay,
Regal, I would say at Revolution he turned back babyface.
it feels very directionless, all of it. Where it's like, what? Hey, he's a hated heel. Oh, can't get behind this guy. Let's boo him. And then it's like, nah, he's a baby face and he's with this group that we like. It's Jon Moxley with a kind of heelish promo almost after beating Punk. Punk who just, I don't know what the fuck is going on with him. It does seem possibly like he's legitimately frustrated. More than likely, we're getting worked. Because he, in all of his statements, he says how happy he is there. So I don't know what to think about it. But I will say that I think that a lot of the storylines feel directionless. These sudden shifts and new ideas that just happen or manifest themselves so quickly. It's like, this is not how traditional wrestling is booked. And look, I'm not saying that we've got to go back to like, what it was in like the 70s or 80s. But I will say that, when wrestling was at its peak, like Monday Night Wars, we had some very clear, defined heels and baby faces. And right now, it's like this very like kind of in between. You don't know who's what. Chris Jericho's a heel most of the time, but he makes us laugh sometimes. And then it's like, well, Chris Jericho's a heel, but now he's coming back as this beloved Lionheart character that people really can get behind. It's like, what the fuck are we doing here?
It does feel all over the place. And Mark, when as you're talking, I'm thinking like we started this show like because we were pretty pumped for AEW and like what it could mean and like it's just a hot new product and it just seemed like a lot to look forward to. And granted, there's plenty of talent and there's plenty of engaging stuff that does happen on there. But to your point, it's all over the place and it happens unexpectedly and it doesn't have a lot of time to cook where you have to literally watch everything to be in touch with everything that's going on Dynamite. Like there might be some sense of continuity, but the expectations of any fan that watches, you have to watch Rampage, you have to watch any YouTube videos, you have to watch AEW Dark Elevation, you also have to even watch BTE. Like this is all, and I understand it's a niche product and things need to like the times are changing and accessibility is everywhere and things like that. But you want to accrue more people watching your television show because this is like to their point and what they even booked this week. It is a television product. It's not a pay-per-view product. So if you want to get an audience, you want to create goodwill and you want to develop a relationship with casual fans and get them back into wrestling maybe that got them excited, whether it's 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And doing these quick, like abrupt stories that might have some connection to it that people like, but it's not all there for everybody. If you tune in, Marcus, what was the name I was just thinking of that I was like, oh my God, I have not thought about this person or considered this person. It's a named star that they have and it hasn't been there or they haven't had a story with this person. I wish I could remember who it was. Oh, okay. It's in a roundabout. It's Hook. Hook is on Rampage, but he's not on Dynamite. You don't see him on Dynamite. And it's like, that's a young star that you want to cultivate. That's your own homegrown talent. You're not doing it. And like, this is, I am not a person that is tied to a promotion. I am not tied to like, I don't pledge allegiance to WWE. I don't pledge allegiance to AEW. Now, granted, I do work for MLW, so I have a little bit of lean there. But I'm saying as a product, like I root for stories, I root for characters, and I root for engaging television. And you have to form that strong relationship week in and week out. If somebody's just watching Dynamite, you want to create something there. And, right now, AEW is really struggling in that department.
Yeah. And look, it's the basic tenets of getting people to return to a television show. In general, let's even knock out the wrestling part of it. Let's just say television show. are you coming back if the story is so? But oh hey, they brought in this actor that I know, but the story sucks. Are you going back to tune in?
No.
No, like look, Eric Bischoff beats this drum all the time, and he's right. Uh, there's a reason that people couldn't stop watching during the Monday Night Wars. Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince was captivating. You're like, what is Austin gonna do to Vince this week? You know, he's always like pouring cement in a Corvette, and he's spraying people with beer and all these awesome antics. And you're like, man, he is ruining Vince's life, and I have to tune in next week. Conversely, on the other channel, it's like, oh man, Sting is looming in the rafters. The NWO is wreaking havoc, but kind of Sting, it keeps on one-upping them here and there. And when's it finally going to come to a head? Oh shit, the Ultimate Warrior's here. That wasn't great, but I'll tell you what though, it had legs. It had legs.
Did. I was excited. I mean, I was excited like back then. Although like it didn't end up delivering. Like as a kid, you're like, oh damn, that's a Warrior and he's in WCW. What the hell's happened?
Goldberg, Raven versus DDP. You got Booker T and Chris Benoit in a best of 7. Like there was so much cool shit. Chris Jericho coming in and do his own as this heel Lionheart character. So like the story was there, and the story was what brought us back week after week. And the story is just such an afterthought here. It's Dom. It does feel like I'm thinking about Bryan Danielson's heel run, and like what was it, like 3 weeks, a month maybe?
What was the point of it? There was the only point.
Right, there was no point.
Yeah. The only point of it was to get Hangman over, but you could have done that by not even having Danielson be a heel.
And here's the other thing is patience. We need some patience here. Yes, I want to see Bryan Danielson versus Hangman Page, but like tease us with it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like let's build her up for a month. Let's build her up for 2 months. Like let's build it to a pay-per-view, and then you've got them across the ring in a tag team situation where they barely touch, and when they do, the place is electric. And then you build it for another month until finally you've got the blow-off singles match. Or it doesn't even have to be the blow-off. You could go to a third month, and then that can be the blow-off with a stipulation match.
And I understand hindsight's like 2020 here, but like you look and you think about it, like wouldn't it have made a lot of sense to already have CM Punk versus Bryan Danielson at this point? Like instead of having Punk, like it was awesome seeing Punk go working against these younger guys that he's never worked with before. But I think when you have two established stars like Danielson and Punk, putting them up against one another, like I understand to an extent you want to build to that, but I mean if you put that on right away, you could always follow up with another one down the road where people would be even more intrigued to tune into it. I don't like seeing like, okay, hey, AEW is struggling while another company, like while WWE is flourishing. I don't like seeing that. I like to see both of them going back and forth. I want to see like what WWE is doing, what Triple H is doing right now is extremely intriguing. And like and I'm going to be forthright. I go out of my way to go and watch SmackDown, or I go out of my way to go and watch Raw, because they have engaged me into something is going to happen this week that continued with the week before. That they're developing over time. Maybe it's going to work. Maybe it's not. Like the Bayley storyline is kind of iffy for me and all that stuff. But like I'm intrigued by, hey, Johnny Gargano showed up. Like boom, unexpected surprise shows up and like cuts a promo. But you also have these stories that develop throughout the course of Raw and throughout the course of SmackDown, especially where it's like things seem to be a little smoother right now. Where I think it goes back to the point that we always say, Marcus, is like. And what you said earlier, like we were watching for Austin and McMahon. What's Austin going to do next week? Well, when Punk lost this past week, there was nothing more to it after the fact. They did not follow up with it except that Moxie promo. The rest of the night, you didn't hear anything about CM Punk. Nobody was talking about CM Punk. Like nobody, like you would think that, hey, you would have somebody backstage being like, well, what the fuck happened to Punk? Like, I can't believe this has happened. Like, is he going to be okay? Is he hurt? Like, I want to see reaction. I want to see a follow up with that, where you look at Raw back in the 90s and the whole show was centered around Steve Austin and what he was doing when he was going to arrive to Arena, what he was planning for McMahon, or what McMahon had planned for him.
And there's a fine line,
Yeah.
WCW is always kind of accused of hyping Hogan like throughout the episode of night. Like Chris Jericho would be having a barn burner of a match with Juventud Guerrera, and they'd be like talking about nothing but Hogan. So like I think that there's a fine line to walk here, but like really you make a great point. It's like, look, you've got money storylines. And these money storylines seem to be kind of a through line throughout the entire episode where it's being brought up. The announcers are putting it over. People backstage are occasionally putting it over. You're tracking people arriving at the building like, oh shit, CM Punk just arrived. Maybe a confrontation with somebody. There's so many little ways and little tricks to make things interesting. And it was, hang on, somebody brought it up. I think it might have been Steven. Said yes, ROH needs a TV deal, so wrestlers not getting any TV time go. And that's a drum that you and I beat a lot, where we were saying, hey, there's too many wrestlers, not everybody's getting enough TV time, there's only so many slots, et cetera, ad nauseum. You and I kind of beat it up.
To an extent, however, I could keep going on about that too.
However, now I'm at the point where it's like, let's extend the show 4 hours. Let's extend it 5 hours. No. I'm not saying to do that. I'm saying that you could do that. And if the story still sucks, then what's the point? So like at this point, it's not even so much about having too many people on the roster, which they do. I'm saying their biggest issue right now is that their stories are shit.
They're barely non-existent.
Right. And look, it sounds like I'm trashing Tony Khan. I know he's the main booker, and I'm not. I actually love a lot of what Tony Khan has done. Yeah. I think that he just needs to really focus in on some of the basic tenets and structures of storytelling and making us care about these characters, making us get behind them. We had Will Ospreay in the main event, and we can talk about it now or whatever. But
let's talk about it now.
And it's cool. I think I'm familiar with Will Ospreay, and I'm like, oh shit, these guys, all these guys are all incredible athletes. This should be really entertaining and fascinating. But when you kind of step out of that, like, we're very much inside the wrestling bubble. When you step out of it as a casual fan who's tuning in, you're like, wait, who is this guy? Why is this guy in the main event? Who he is.
Right. Unfortunately, it's like a casual fan is not going to know who Will Ospreay is. It's just, and if you put him in the main event, sure, he's athletic, sure, he can do a lot of moves, sure, he's good looking, all that stuff, but there's no ties, there's no connection to it, where you want these fans to be familiarized with them. And like, again, it boils down to honing in on who you want to showcase. Like, you want to make a program, the main event with Will Ospreay, and have him ultimately win the match against Death Triangle, will make him a heavy focus of the show, along with CM Punk, along with Jon Moxley, along with Ricky Starks. Like, get like 4 or 5 people that you're going to really focus on. And hey, Thunder Rosa too. If she's relinquishing the title, like, you got to make something big about that. And we'll talk about that in a second. But Mark, yeah, I agree with you. Like, I like Will Ospreay. I like his work. I like his mic work. And I think can be a great heel or a great babyface. But if I'm a fan tuning in, I don't know who this guy is. I know he can do a whole lot of athletic moves, but is that going to get me to tune in to the week after and see what he's up to? Because I don't know anything about this guy. And if I'm a regular fan.
Here's what you do, and we've probably brought it up before, and Steven just had something he said there that I think that we need to touch on after I make this statement.
Sure.
But like, if Tony Khan called me and said, hey Marcus, can you format a show for me? The first thing I would do is go to Peacock, and I'd watch 2 episodes. I'd watch 1 episode of Monday Nitro, and I'd watch an episode of Monday Night Raw from like mid 98, maybe spring 98, somewhere in there, when they were really rocking and rolling. So I'd watch these episodes, and I would look at how it was structured. Because, like, we can say from here to hell, okay, there's too many talent on the roster, et cetera, et cetera. However, there was a lot of talent on the WCW roster, a lot, and they made it work. So same thing with WWE, tons of talent, main eventers all over the roster. They made it work. So what did they do? So go back and look at it. Go back and look at how they structured an event. Okay, was Mick Foley on every single week, or was he on every other week? Were Kevin Nash and Scott Hall wrestling every week? Did they just have a promo one week? So it's that's what you need to look at. And I think that if Tony Khan were to do that, I think that all of a sudden this program and all of these stars, it starts to become a lot more palatable for people.
And listen, it's a great point too, because if you really focus on a select amount of stars and really make them the big deal, like, that elevates everybody then that you present on the show, because your product is hot. So like, Austin was the hot act, and you built the show around him. But who would come out later on is like a Val Venus, a Godfather, A
You
Ken
have you have
Shamrock.
you have entertainment guys, and then you've got kind of your main story. So you've got Austin in like an A storyline. You've got maybe The Rock in like a B storyline with somebody like Triple H. Then you've got Mick Foley in like a C storyline. And then it's everything else is just kind of like filler and get people
But
excited.
and that point though, like those stars got elevated because of that. Like a Val Venus was elevated because he was on the show with Austin, or
Yeah.
like, and they didn't
You're
even have any
stepping into the ring
connection,
with The Rock, and The Rock makes him look competitive.
right?
There's a lot of ways to make it work.
There is.
Dom, I think we should address what Steven said here
Yes.
earlier. He said,
Is that the long paragraph here?
yes, AEW not having a good week. Thunder, Rosa injured. Eddie Kingston suspended. Having to email WWE to warn them not talking to AEW wrestlers about coming to WWE. And Warner Brothers warning AEW to tone down language. Dom, is AEW kind of coming apart at the seams a little bit?
I think we're just seeing a lot of the growing pains. Like Robert made a great point last week that he said, like this is only a company that's been involved 2.5 years, and they've been right out of the gate. They were the number 2 company. So like, and you think about it, like when WCW kicked off, it started like Bischoff started taking over like in what like 90. What was it, Marcus? 95,
93.
93. So he took over in 93, and like he got the ball turning, and things started changing, and the ship started getting right from the Jim Hurt era and all that stuff. So like I think to a point there's a lot of growing pains going on and a lot of things going, but I mean that does not mean that things should not be addressed and taken care of. Like if Tony Khan's like, and like to your point, I like what Tony Khan's doing, and I like the mindset that he has, and the respect and admiration he has for legends in the business, and so that stuff. But I think that needs to kind of translate over into the television product, where if you have these minds like Arn Anderson and Jim Ross, and, William Regal, Dean Malenko, Jerry Lynn, I could go on. Billy Gunn. You utilize them and you make the most of them, where you delegate certain aspects of it. And I think there comes a point where it's like, all right, we do want a new influx of talent and insight from like modern stars and everything like that. But hey, these guys here that I've hired, like a Big Show, a Paul White, who you don't see at all, or a Mark Henry, I got to utilize these minds because they've been there and they know what they're doing and things like that. And to streamline the whole thing and make it something, because you have a lot of talent. You have a lot of talent and you don't have a lot of TV time for that talent. Well, if you're able to retain them, like who you want, but like you have to streamline it, and that stuff like this needs to get addressed. I don't. So like injury bugs will hit, things will happen, people will get suspended. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that happens in all these like.
God knows that was happening plenty in WCW and WWE back in the day.
Right, and there's to the point where there wasn't even just social media. There wasn't like the only thing that you could check are message boards on
or Meltzer
WrestleZone.com back then, or Meltzer, and that's all you could really hear about. So it's a different time. So you're going to hear a lot more stuff in this day and age. That's just a matter of the fact. That's the way it is. So I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing, but I do see that there's a lot of things that need to be addressed, and sooner than later, especially when you're in the heat of like a company merger, Warner and Discovery, getting together and all that stuff. You want to put your best foot forward, and you don't want. I think as far as that language thing, wasn't exactly that yet. I think it's not to that point where it's like they got to tone down the language. I think what I heard, because Sean Ross Sapp clarified that a little bit, where that might not necessarily be as much the case, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Marcus, I mean,
I love AEW, and
we made the show because we were really excited about AEW and wanted to see flourish. Yeah,
love the product in general, but I think we're starting to see some frays here, and before they get out of control, you've got to get a handle on this thing. And step one is emphasis on story, and stop thinking about like, oh man, what a great main event match this will make. Let's tell a really great story in the main event.
That match was great. Like
it was awesome.
Trios match
It was awesome. It would have been even more awesome about midway through the show, top of the end of the first hour.
How many people were thinking about what was going on in that match in comparison to what happened earlier on in the show?
You need to close. Like, here's the other thing too: is like on paper, there's no reason why your championship shouldn't be defended in the main event. It doesn't make any sense.
The only thing that made it like that you could kind of like, hey, is the hour time limit. But if you're gonna do that, you had to. That should have been the last thing. Like, I mean, like that should have been the only thing you had planned left on the show.
I mean, what did they used to do back in the day though? They'd say like, "There's an hour time limit. We'll stay on if we have
as long as it needed." And then
right,
and
then you know, miraculously it would end right when the show's supposed to end.
Hey, look at that! It worked out.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I don't know. I'm frustrated because I love AEW and because I see the talent that Tony Khan has. I really do. I see where he's got this great mind for wrestling, and I think that he just needs to focus in.
I agree. Marcus, I think a point too that we haven't really beaten this drum too much, but is the fact that the ratings have plateaued. Like, you're not getting week in and week out. You know, what they received for this rating was more than what they usually did. Like, I think it was up 21% from the week before or something like that, if I remember correctly. But it's like, okay, are you going to get that number next week? And like what you've been making these past few weeks has been floating around the 900,000, 950,000 range. And sure, it's been, steadily, it's been number one in the 18 to 49 demographic and the cable originals throughout every week for the most part. But you're not getting more of an audience. It's you want to get more of an audience. And if you look back at those numbers are still down from the year before. Like, and that's not good. That's not good. So
it's problematic. And I think that Tony Khan is bright enough to turn the ship around. I really do. So let's fingers crossed, we'll start to see that happen here.
I agree. I want to see it happen, and I want to see, I don't want to see these guys like an Arn Anderson or a Big Show or Mark Henry just get underutilized.
Jake Roberts,
where they're there, but then like, are they going to get retained? Are they going to be like their contracts going to get renewed? Like, you want to see these guys in there because they know what the hell they're doing. So
with my job, I have to listen to podcasts a lot, and I also have to drop in on DDP Snake Pit with DDP and Jake the Snake, and like just listening to Jake talk and some of like the little nuggets of wisdom that he has, it's like, man, this guy's brilliant. This guy is absolutely brilliant. And I would love to see, as Nesha just said, use the vet cell, build the product. Yes, I would love to see Jake have more of an active role in helping to maybe format storylines, work with wrestlers on psychology, because nobody's got a better grip on it than him.
Like, what if you kind of set up almost like a pseudo NXT in a way, and I don't mean from like a promotion standpoint or anything like that, but like you have created like a framework. William Regal was there right in the thick of everything. So like, what if you kind of laid out a thing like, where you had a guy that played the Dusty role, where he worked with with people with promos and gave them promo classes and things like that. Or
how about weekly seminars? Mandatory. They're not making towns like they used to back in the day, where they've got to go to 3 house shows during the week or more in some cases. Like, tell them, hey, look, from here on, yes, we've got TV on Wednesday and Thursday, but need you guys on a Monday to either do it in person or via Zoom, where we're doing seminars.
Flying early. Like, we'll get you set up, or like you create an area or an establishment in Jacksonville or something.
Or help during the day on Wednesday. Where you bring them into the arena, have a chat, and it's not, I'm not saying that none of these guys nowadays have a grip on psych. I'm sure a lot of them do. I'm sure a lot of them would be frustrated having to sit through that kind of thing. But I think it's good team building, and I think it's good to kind of get a reminder from some guys who really have, like, it really captured the audience's imagination when in their prime. Like, how did you do it? What were your tricks? Like, what are some little things that I can do? Let me tell you, Jake Roberts has got a lot of them, like
And,
tiny little nuanced details that you're like, man, that is really smart. And yes, it would make the audience pay more attention. And he knows all that stuff.
and it seems like, I don't like, and I have no inside information. I have no insight or, and like, I don't want to like completely speculate on things here. But like, I will say, like, it seems like there's almost like this thing, and I'm sure this is across the board in all of wrestling, that some wrestlers, younger wrestlers, go for advice and others don't. And like William Regal said that too on his podcast, where like there'd be times in NXT where there would be times where these wrestlers were just looking at their phones and they could be picking the brain of a William Regal or a Fit Finley or somebody like that, and they did not make the most of that. And I'm sure that's an across the board situation, whether you're in WWE or whether you're in AEW.
I
And
have to say, at risk of coming off like you're a mark, as they say, like if I wrestled a match and Arn Anderson was in the building or Jake Roberts was in the building, I would walk up to them immediately afterwards and be like, "What did you think?"
yeah,
Or like, "Could you watch the match?" I'd be saying that ahead of time. Would you mind watching my match? I'd love to hear your thoughts. It's Scott Hall even brought this up years and years ago, where he was saying like, when he was a young guy in the business, like, some old guys, like a Wahoo McDaniel or somebody would come up and give him advice and be like, yeah, like that probably worked in your era, that sort of mentality. But then Hall, as he got older, he's like, fuck, they were right.
right.
As he got older and started paying more attention, getting into psychology himself, he's like, shit. Like, yeah, he was 100% right. And the same stuff's like, look, it's, yes, the business has changed. Yes, the audience's expectations have changed, but basic human psychologies remain the same. Basic human emotions have remained the same. Good guys and bad guys. There's emotion in the way that you do stuff. There's certain ways to manipulate a live crowd. Whenever you're in the ring, some of your reactions, some of your facials, knowing when to bail out of the ring, et cetera, et cetera. Where it's like, man, these guys have got like a skeleton key. These guys like Arn Anderson and Jake Roberts, and like just take the skeleton key and open up these locks, because man,
Yeah.
like once you get these fucking doors open, you could go from being a mid carder to a main eventer in a snap.
And it's for the betterment of wrestling overall. Like, you have these guys and gals are not going to be around forever. Like Arn Anderson is not always going to be in AEW. Dustin Rhodes is not always going to be an active wrestler. Matt
Right.
Hardy is not going to be there forever. Like, you have to make the most of these guys, and like, as a fan, you enjoy them on television. Like, I think you really should. Like, somebody like a Chris Jericho, like, it's like he gets polarized online and everything like that. But you're not going to have him on your television all the time. It's not
Take
going to
advantage.
happen.
Take advantage.
Take advantage. And as a talent that wants to get better and get the wrestling product better, like, you want, it's for the betterment of the whole industry if you do this kind of thing. It's not just bettering yourself, you're bettering the whole business, like doing that stuff and asking somebody for advice or to watch your match or to heed what they're doing. And it's a team effort. And like, to your point, I think Tony Khan has the knowledge and the capability and the passion to get it done. He's just got to get those ducks in order, where, like, you hone in and you focus, and you just do it. You get a team going, like, again, like almost like a pseudo performance center. But it's not really a performance center, but you have stuff set up where it's like, okay, this seminar is going on. We want you to attend this. It's and you can make them a pretty mandatory too. Hey, we want you to show up to this. If somebody's having problems, like, we need you to show up to this
Honestly,
class.
it's probably as simple, for Tony Khan, as prioritizing. Like, say, like, okay, here's what I want to feature. Here's what I want to feature in a secondary position. Here's what I want to feature in a kind of third or C position. And kind of hone in on that sort of thing, so that you can say, okay, well, my main event, or my A storyline, that's my main focus. It's my through line throughout the show. B's getting brought up here and there. C's in the mix. I don't know. There's ways to do it. Certainly, there's 100% a formula. 100% there is a formula. It's just a matter of finding that formula and utilizing it. And look, this formula could probably be used now until the end of time in pro wrestling, once you get it figured out, because like all the basic tenets are there.
Exactly. And Mark Bischoff said this on, I want to say it was after 3 weeks with Christy Olsen, where he was like, that's what he wanted to do when he got into the creative director position of WWE. He wanted to create a formula where you can like plug a television formula for wrestling that you could plug talents in, and like it would ultimately work most times. Like he's instead of not most times, but instead of like 1 out of 10 times, it will work 3 out of 10 times. You know, or something like that.
Hassan, what's up? Yeah, it's look, and here's the other thing: is on a subconscious level, people like routine.
Yes.
Everybody does. Most humans like having a routine, something that they can expect, different kind of vibes and feelings and flavors at particular times. And to Eric Bischoff's point, that's why a formula would work. They don't like, look, you would have to analyze it to figure out the formula or figure out that there is a formula. But if you're just kind of casually watching it and there's a formula week after week, you're going to start to get really comfortable with that product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And look, I mean, if you look at like Marvel Studios, they have a formula for all their movies. Like, yep. And people, and it can get criticized and things like that because like, okay, it's doing this happens next and this plugs in there and stuff like that. That gets criticized, but it works. It draws money. It's because they made the most of their profit,
and it won't stop. It won't stop drawing money. You know, like I always point to the first 2 Ghostbusters movies, where they're basically the same movie. They're essentially exactly the same movie. But people love them. Yeah. I would guarantee that if you had them both playing at the same time, the soundtrack would kind of line up, where it's like, oh, upbeat, we're happy. Oh, we're taking it down. Oh, it's getting scary. Like I would be willing to bet that the soundtrack would be very, very close because they're essentially the same exact movie, but people love it, and it's because
you want
of
modernize it, Marcus. Stranger Things every season.
There you go. Every season, very much the same. So yeah, to Eric's and your point, yes, a formula I think is truly key when it comes to having a good product.
Mark, it's yeah. I mean, we just want to see it do better, and you know, when there's cracks in the foundation and like things seem to leaks are spurting out here and there, you want to patch them up pretty quickly. And
I'm not ready to find a lifeboat yet.
No, not at all.
But you start to see some cracks in the foundation. It's like, hey, let's fix this because we know what this product can be at its best. We saw Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson in Arthur Ashe Stadium, where everybody was just fucking stunned afterwards.
And you know what? Those crowds too, like, are electric. Like, when they were in Minneapolis and even this past week in Cleveland, like, those crowds are hot, and that's a wrestling crowd. Like, imagine getting more of a wrestling crowd, like building more of that audience and getting that excitement going. And like, it's there. It's for the betterment of all wrestling to do that.
Yep. They are there. It's just a matter of finding them and keeping them interested.
Mark, what is, and I didn't get your thoughts on this, but like, and indirectly, it's obviously related to AEW. But what are your thoughts about like what Triple H has kind of been doing?
To be 100% honest, I haven't seen a lot of it.
I know you haven't, but
I've mostly just heard about what he's doing. But look, it's Triple H is a wrestling guy. You kind of take a look back at his history. He was trained by Killer Kowalski, so he's got that very old school kind of a base. But then all of a sudden, he was in the car with the Clique. Some of the best minds in the history of pro wrestling, and Shawn Michaels and Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, for crying out loud, Sean Waltman.
They all learned from like Dusty Rhodes and Barry Windham.
All of these really, really smart guys. So Triple H was kind of soaking up all of that information. And then, then he started to do his own thing, and it was really something special. So Triple H has been there through the Monday Night Wars. He was there through the New Generation. He got trained by Killer Kowalski. He was there for the Ruthless Aggression era. And so he has seen everything in pro wrestling, and he's had the luxury of seeing it from an impartial eye, where he's one of the boys, where it's, where when it comes to Vince, at least before they went public, it was, if you make more money, Vince makes less money. So Vince had his own very specific perspective on pro wrestling, where Triple H kind of got to look at it from an impartial perspective. That, combined with all of the knowledge that he's getting from all these different sources over the course of his career, there's nobody better set up for it. Like, when he brought back Killer Cross, I was like, it makes perfect sense that he would bring back Killer Cross. You would bring him back. Why get rid of him in the first place? From, you know, if you're looking at this from purely I want a superstar guy on my roster perspective, why would you ever get rid of Killer Cross? He looks like $1 million. He's tall, he's jacked, he's handsome. He's got this beautiful girl that comes along with him. And by the way, he's got one of the coolest entrances in wrestling. He was over with the fans. And it's like, this guy had everything. They buried him and shoved him out the door. And now all of a sudden Triple H is in charge. And you start to see all these guys start to come back into the fold. And it's like, yep, makes perfect sense. So no, dude, it's from an outsider's perspective, somebody who doesn't watch the product religiously, everything that I'm hearing about it and seeing him doing, I'm like, A, it makes perfect sense, and B, it's a really exciting time to be a fan of WWE.
And you know, like Triple H is somebody too that's learned on the fly. Like, you know, he pulled from Vince too. Like Vince's way of promotion and things like that. When like putting it on a big spectacle kind of stage too. Like he's learned that, but he's also learned that you can make money off of a smaller talents like a Johnny Gargano, a Tommaso Ciampa, an Adam Cole. Like where you don't pigeonhole yourself to like, okay, this bodybuilder type or anything like that. You know, he's making the most of Kevin Owens right now, who's going back to like when he first was in NXT and just dominating people. Like he put that persona back to KO, and like, you know, so he's learned. Like everybody can kind of learn. Like that doesn't necessarily mean like. And Triple H had, so like to your point, had all that knowledge and, you know, insight and education beforehand. And even now, like in the modern times, he's learned on the go too. So
he's a wrestling guy to the bone. The product is going to improve. Period.
Yeah. Mark.
Also look at the kind of people he's surrounding himself with. You know, it bodes well. I'm excited to see where he's going. So yeah, go ahead, hammer on.
Yeah. I do want to make mention. So yeah, friend of the show, Thunder Rosa, out with injury, had to relinquish the title, and now it's in a fatal 4-way match at All Out to determine who the new champ is. Really, just a bummer, man. Like it stinks. Like I think she's one of the best talents out there to do it. And but I don't know if you got to hear any of the Busted Open interview that she did on Friday, where she just like she laid it all on the line, like that. She was like, basically like, I'm gonna be back and I'm gonna be better than ever, and it's gonna be like you could tell how bummed she was, but then she fired back with like it's almost like that fighting spirit babyface where it's like, okay, they're down, but they're not totally out. You know what I mean? Where it's like, because she was explaining how difficult it's been, how she's in constant pain, everything like that, and sometimes unable to move and stuff. But then she was like, but I'll be back and I'll be ready to go and blah, 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 like just laid it all on the line.
She's a badass, dude. She's a great wrestler.
Yeah.
Steven, thank you. Steven said God bless you to me. Appreciate it. Yeah, I did sneeze. So appreciate that, bud. Yeah, it's a huge bummer. I'm not going to beat it up too much because everybody here knows what I think of Thunder Rosa. I've said it before. I'm sure I'll say it a million more times. I think she has the potential to be a Stone Cold-esque baby face, that kind of a draw. I really think that she's got that. So I'm anxious to see her make her return and hammer on. But again, it's also going to depend on how she's treated when she returns. You know, where she was the champion. How often did we get to watch her work?
She would come out for like a match. She maybe cut like a little promo, maybe.
And then she started tag teaming. It's okay. You've got your top, in theory, your top female singles star, and you keep putting her in tag team situations. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Really, it's it should be her facing adversity, solo, and overcoming it and showing people like, hey, there's nobody too big. I will be anybody. I'll take on all comers. And then I like Toni Storm, but I'm like, why? It doesn't make any sense.
And another point is like, with we haven't seen a whole lot of Jade Cargill that often either, and it's like,
right.
You want to define a women's division, and you have all these star powerhouses there that you can create into your own, and you have to give them the proper television time and give them the proper attention, where You can't make them feel like a week to week, like, oh, here's the women's match. Or, you have to give them segments and moments like Ruby Soho's there. Like, you don't see her.
Hey, so Nesha's saying she's sick of Jade. John likes Jade. Nesha's saying let Jade lose already. Here's the thing, Nesha, is you saying that and feeling that way is exactly why she shouldn't lose. And by that, I mean, you want her to become a super, super hot heel. And by the way, she already is. But the more she hangs on to that title and just keeps clowning other people that she comes up against, like I say, like build up a star to come up against her. Let's just say Britt Baker. You say, okay, Britt Baker all of a sudden wants a hold of her title. And Britt is just beating the shit out of people on the way to her, and just have her squash Britt. Have her just beat her ass, because that is going to build resentment in fans. And I think that kind of heat really, really works to the point that, by the time she finally does get beat, we as fans are going to be worked up to such a fucking fever pitch, dying for her to lose, that when it happens, I mean, the roof is going to get ripped off the arena. So yeah, in my opinion, I think that she needs to keep that belt on her for another year longer. And just have her continue to like kind of kick that can down the road and get on people's nerves with how fucking good she is.
Yeah, I agree. Like, and I think, when I saw her on Rampage and she just cut like a little promo, like it was just not a lot, but it was great. Like, I'm invested in Jade. I'm invested in what she does. But the thing is, Athena comes in and attacks her. We don't hear from Athena at all. We don't hear from her at all. She comes in and attack, like, it's another talent.
Why do we like her or care about her?
Yeah, it's she was Ember Moon in NXT, and
yep.
she was great.
Hey, I like Ember Moon. Why do I like Athena?
Yeah, I get it. I get you have a lot of talent, and but
it's not good enough to say, well, she's Ember Moon, but with a different name. It's not good enough. No. You have to give her a story. You have to build her. You have to get her over with this audience. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it sucks. It's frustrating.
It is like
Dom, we gotta wrap this fucking thing up there, bud.
Okay. Let me see what I want. Kenny Omega just coming back. What do you think about all that, Mark? And how would you he's like the Bucks are back in babyface kind of positions. He's more in a babyface position. Don Callis is with him still, who's just a heel. So what do you think of all this, and how would you utilize Kenny Omega back in the mix?
More of what I was saying earlier, where it's like on the surface, I'm psyched that he's back. I like him, like his work. Mm-hmm. I thought that his heel work, as you know, was just something else. Thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Where he's I can't remember the phrase that I used, but essentially just like obnoxiously good. Where it's like he's just got like so good it's like effortless for him, and it's just it makes it really annoying when he's like beating people. So he had that kind of a vibe to him. But yeah, so how does it make sense to bring him back and all of a sudden, hey, Kenny's back, so the Bucks are baby faces, and yeah, Don Callis is still a heel, but we hang out with him, and it's like, dude, focus in. Let's focus in on this. Let's stick with what was working. When Kenny left, AEW, in my opinion, was really starting to heat up. In part because of the incredible, like, it seems like he's always high on coke type vibe that he gave off. So let's stick with the hot hand.
Mm-hmm. Keep it going.
It's yes. Look, people, and I've said this before. When somebody returns, you usually want to position them as a baby face because people are excited to see them. And the same is true for Kenny, I'm sure, where people see him and they're like, "Hey, I know I didn't like him before, but hey, I'm glad he's back." You can squash that right away, though. By have him come out and get some heat on somebody who the crowd really loves.
Well, did you see any of the promo he cut off the air with Will Ospreay and stuff?
No.
They went back and forth after Dynamite in the match and stuff like that. And it was good stuff. And like they blur the lines because like they've been at each other, online and things like that, where it's setting things up. But
great, but look, I could have seen that, and I don't know that they were going at each other online.
Yeah,
I don't know that this is a dream match in like Japan or whatever. Mm-hmm. It is. I know, like I know enough to know that it is, but do I think that any casual wrestling fan is like, oh shit, yeah, they've had an issue? No. These are the two train ships passing in the night sort of a situation with these guys. No, people don't know that, and so you've got to give me a reason to care. Mm-hmm. You've got to give the casual fan a reason to care.
Did you get to see Dax and Jay Lethal?
Yes.
What'd you think of that? Those are two of your guys right there.
Love them both. Excellent workers. Both excellent workers. And an excellent match.
Mm-hmm. That was pretty exciting. And now they're facing one of our other tag teams from TNA days, the Motor City Machine Guns. How awesome is that? That's gonna be cool.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I saw Nesha bring it up earlier, and yeah, that's badass, Dom. I'm psyched. Look, it's I think that what FTR is doing is something really special, and that's bringing tag team wrestling back to the forefront. You can't give them all the credit. I think that the Young Bucks do deserve a lot of that credit as well, certainly. But like FTR is just taking it to a whole other level.
They really are, man. They really are. I mean, like, it just boils down to like, hey, we want to see AEW do great. We love doing the show, and we love talking about it. I get excited talking about this stuff, and like, there's a lot to talk about now. But it's just stuff that
I mean, and look, we're kind of like going back and forth and flip flopping and saying like, "Hey, I love AEW," but it would be different if we came on here and trashed AEW every time we do a podcast. We don't. Normally, we're like, we love the show. We love what they have to offer. Love all the talent that they pulled in. So like, there's a lot to love about AEW right now. We're just saying like, hey, this last episode kind of left us wanting a little bit.
It did, and like, and to look forward to it, where you have like a week to get ready for All Out, and you still don't have a title match official yet. It's like, all right, what's happening here, and why is all this drama going on, and where is this all connecting? Where like things just, and you get it, injuries happen, all that stuff happens, but you want your ducks lined up,
Well said by Steven Chambers here, getting a Rock and Roll Express versus Midnight Express type vibe from those two tag teams.
That's
great.
Mm-hmm.
Or like old school Arn and Tully versus Rock and Roll, Jim Crockett Promotions. Hell yes.
Oh, I'm gay. I love it. Marcus knows Alex Shelley was my guy in TNA, so I'm pumped for that. That'll be great.
It's gonna be badass, dude.
Mm-hmm. It is. Mark. So yes, you work for Ad Free Shows. Top Guy Weekend's coming up here in Chicago or in Schaumburg. What do we got? I have to expect, and what do you want to plug here?
I mean, there's a lot of surprises on the way, but some of the things that I can tell you about, Dom, is that, well, first of all, if you're unfamiliar, it's of course, adfreeshows.com. It's all of Conrad Thompson's podcasts all in one place, and then a lot of them with our sister network, I guess you'd call it, Podcast Heat. Get them early and ad free. But there's different levels of membership where you can kind of be like a lower tier, which is $9.99 a month, or you can work your way all the way up to $99 per month. And I know it sounds like a lot of money, but when you kind of start to hear all the stuff that you get, you're like, as a huge wrestling fan, that sounds amazing. And the biggest perk, the thing that these top tier people look forward to the very, very most all year long, every year, is Top Guy Weekend. And that's coming up here a week from right now. Dominic will be doing it. Where we all meet up in Chicago, and it's awesome stage shows. It's a very close, small, intimate atmosphere. We're in kind of like a ballroom in a hotel. And stage shows this year. We're also partnering with Wrestling Showcase, so there's going to be a wrestling live pro wrestling. So there's a lot of really cool stuff going on. There's huge surprises. Last year Sting showed up. The entire AEW roster, almost, I would say over 50% of the AEW roster showed up and did karaoke with these top guys, where it's just like this incredible all access kind of a pass for these like dedicated pro wrestling fans. And man, it's if you are a huge fan and you say like, hey, I've got an extra, I've got that kind of money to spend every single month, do yourself a favor. Because let me tell you, these top guys, you'd think that a lot of people would spend that money and then come back and say like, oh man, I could have used that money on this or that. Nope. None of these guys regret it one single bit, because you get so much for a relatively small amount of money every single month. So if you can do it, please do it, because you will not regret it. And it is the ultimate experience for pro wrestling fans. Take it from me, a guy who's been a huge pro wrestling fan for years, and now I get to work in this setting. I'm like, man, what an incredible experience we're giving to these fans.
It's cool stuff, man. It's and like, yeah, it's to that point, like Schaumburg, the hotel has like a bar, and like I remember just being out there with the top guys and who else would pop in. It was pretty neat. It was pretty damn neat.
Yeah, I mean, like people just kind of like randomly show up and hang out, and you can have drinks with pro wrestling legends and hang out. And what's really cool is that these top guys, they get so much access to people like Arn Anderson, Eric Bischoff, Jeff Jarrett, that they start to form personal relationships with them and become friends with them. Where like we've got a few members that have become very close friends with some of these I think have personal phone numbers and stuff like that, where it's like they're buddies. So yeah, I mean, if that's always been something that you wanted, do not deprive yourself, make it happen, gang.
And it's a cool communal aspect too, where like a lot of these top guys like get together and like, and then you see like guys like how do you say his name, Marcus? Is it Devonius?
Denovius Mac.
Denovius. Yeah, like he's a guy that's like, helped out and done a lot of stuff, and he's a top guy. And there's a lot of guys that like kind of, associate,
and they become buddies and hang out outside of these events, where like I've heard about them flying to each other's cities just to hang out and like watch a pay-per-view together. So it's like we're really kind of forming a community here. It's really something special, and we love you guys. We formed our own little community here with all you guys. So if you want to continue this kind of community vibe, please consider joining adfreeshows.com. And I will give you a 100% guarantee you will not regret it.
Hey, speaking of ad-free shows, Marcus.
Yes.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but I have a show on ad-free shows.
I heard about this, Dom.
Did you hear about this?
I did. I think I had to edit some video for it.
Yes, we go in depth. Me and Tom DeShanes, we talk. We have a topic each week, and the first episode was the mega powers colliding, exploding. And he goes into he's a Harvard scholar, and he Shakespeare like was his specialty. And he breaks down.
He's an award-winning author. He creates he creates board games. Really a brilliant guy.
Yes, and like you'll see it too if you tune in. He breaks the Marcus. I don't know if I told you this, but like I told Tom, like I was like, I feel an extra kinship now with Macho Man Randy Savage after hearing like the whole Mega Power storyline, because he broke it down that much that I was like, man, I'm so invested in who Randy Savage was, what he did for that whole storyline, and everything like that.
It really enhances characters that you're already passionate about.
Yes,
where you start to kind of get like the inside track on like what the character's mindset might have been. So like we got to see kind of all the overt emotions on screen of Randy Savage during this, but now this is kind of like a deep dive, kind of examining like the inner workings of his mind whenever it's coming to these storylines. So it's really cool stuff.
Really cool stuff. And episode 2 will be coming up here very quickly. It's already in the can, and it's going to be about the NWO, what Marcus and I talked about here earlier. And he goes, it's awesome. I tell you what, you'll look at Sting in a completely different way. It's awesome.
I'm anxious to hear it.
Yes. So yeah, check that out. I'm also over at Wrestling Inc. That's where I do my daily coverage at. So if you want some news, go there. But also, hey, WrestleZone.com. Still, we got kicking. We got Colin Tessier over there. We got Bill Pritchard hammering it out. Robert DeFelice, that mercenary, he's still over there. And there's a lot of good stuff happening over at WrestleZone.com. Colin does an excellent job at covering all the NWA stuff, and that's leading up with NWA 74 here, with Trevor Murdoch and Tyrus going at it. But like Colin Tessier's did several interviews with a lot of talents that you should be checking out. So there's a lot of good stuff cooking over at WrestleZone.com. And that's about it, Mark. It's been a good show. What a way to get back into the mix of things. Now next week we'll be taking another break, but we're gonna get back on track here.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, probably not, but we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys whenever we fucking can. Might be a couple months. I don't know.
Couple months, Marcus. I mean, it was about a month now, so. Let's tack on an extra one. Why not?
No, we'll do our best. But hey, feel free to reach out to us online if you miss us.
Yeah, hit us up on the Twitter, and we'll give you some insight that way too. Colin is awesome, that show. All right, guys. Hey, we will see you next time here on AEW 2. Say it, Marcus. Say it.
2.
Dynamite Dudes. That's it.
That's it.
I
That's it.
forgot
That's,
we
you
got
almost
rid
said
of
on a
those.
rampage. Yeah, we got rid of
There's
that.
no more rampages. It's 2 Dynamite Dudes.